welcome on in my Ashwings to another Project Blue video. We are going to go ahead and finish up our heroes that are in the High Seas series and go about taking a look at Marlynn today. Still one more hero after this. We'll go ahead and talk about Scurv in another video, but right now let's take a look at Marlynn. This is kind of what I have set up for her vaguely. Still not entirely sure how she's going to play out, whether or not a Red Spine Manta build or a Hammerhead Harpoon build is better. But overall, I think that the deck has the ability to go very tall. And I think that's really what we want, especially presenting an overpower keyword on some of these harpoons. I think overall, it just kind of makes sense to go about getting your overpowers through, just because there's not a lot of defense reactions that are available in the format, and so you're not going to see a lot of people with like the 2 Sink Belows in their hand to block out a big arrow. Sometimes they have to just take a lot of damage, which means they're also taking a lot of these on hits from our pumps and stuff like that there too. So let's take a quick look here. First and foremost, Marlynn, her ability, you're probably never going to get to use it. Unfortunate. The one thing you will get to use is her secondary ability here, which is whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up in your arsenal. This is what's going to be very necessary for you to load your arrows, as your cannon does not load arrows. Your weapon does pay 4 resources and tap, but it just gives a buff to your next arrow. And if it's a harpoon, it gets overpower. Now, very clear, this does not load anything into your arsenal. So you need to find a way to get something into your arsenal first and then pump it up with Hammerhead. So with that, we do take a look at BlueSky Tricorn. I like this because it does block, should you need to block, but it also is a pay 3, destroy this, draw a card, go again. So you pitch a blue, draw a card, you then get to load an arrow from your hand into your arsenal zone, and then you still go again. And you get to essentially replace that blue in your hand with another card. Buccaneer's Bounty, this is a great way to just get an additional resource. Should you be that 1 resource off for the Hammerhead Harpoon Cannon, you could certainly go ahead and destroy this, pitch a blue, activate Hammerhead, and then swing your arrow to give it an additional +4 value. Glidewell Fin is the next one here. This is, again, a block 1 battle worn, so you get to block with it, which is really good. But also, notably, you can pay 1 to put an arrow into your hand face up in your arsenal. It gets +1 this turn. Go again. This is a great way for if you get a bolt and shot off and you have additional value to send something else a little bit more powerful to follow it up. This does put it into your arsenal zone face up, so any cards that do get a face up value, pumped to themselves, do get that as well. So very well, if you pitch 1 into a glide fin, you put a headshot into there. You then get +2 from the headshot, +1 from the glidewell fin. This will come in for 7, which is obviously a lot to follow up with if you have that resource to send that there. We do then have the Blade Beckoner boots as the leg pieces. Theoretically, I'd like for this to be some kind of go again, but of course, with Snapdragon Scalers not being in the format, you're not going to see any kind of stuff there. So Blade Beckoner boots is our next best bet. Then we're going to take a quick look at the main deck here. Nothing too surprising from what I can tell. It's just a few pumps, and then of course cards to be able to draw you cards, filter your hand, and then also get go again and reload on these fronts here. Because reload is going to be great. Another way you're going to be able to get that value of putting another arrow into your arsenal. And you can then shoot that arrow after something like a bolt and shot, because you're more than likely going to pump a Lace with Blood Rot, play a Lace with Blood Rot, and then play a bolt and shot. This will then come in for go again, and then when it hits reload, so it'll come in for like 7, go again, on hit reload. When it hits, you'll go ahead and then put another arrow into your arsenal, which then if you have the resources for, you can use Hammerhead Harpoon, pay 4 resources, and then shoot the arrow, which is very good. I mean, yeah, because it would effectively be Lace with Blood Rot into a bolt and shot that's already in your arsenal. You send that, it hits, you have 2 blues and a harpoon in your hand. You can then load a harpoon into your arsenal zone, pitch your resources to Hammerhead, have 2 floats, send harpoon for 8 with overpower. So you effectively get to send 7 with an on hit into 8 with overpower. Very, very good stuff. Of course, you have to line that up, but it's pretty good. Calling the Big Guns is another way we're going to get stuff into our arsenal zone. It just puts stuff from our hand face up into our arsenal zone, and the next arrow attack this turn gets +3, so very important to continue to follow that up with a nice arrow. Notably, there are pretty good zero-cost arrows in the deck. Drill Shot kind of reduces your opponent's armor a little bit, so if your opponent's still got some block value on their armor, you can go ahead and shred that down a little bit. Dry Powder Shot is a super awesome card. It's literally Headshot, but it costs 0. So this one will come in for 5, where Headshot would come in for 6, but you have to pay a resource for that. So just keep in mind, these are kind of like your big chain enders if you can get that to happen, because even if it's Bolt and Shot, reload, this gets face down, so theoretically this will still come in for 3. So really you're not going to want to choose these as your go again targets. You're going to want to choose something like a Searing Shot or a Drill Shot for your go again targets, or even any of these Harpoons should you have the resources to pump them up. But these guys here are mainly for kind of the Call in the Big Guns turns. You play Call in the Big Guns, you bring in Dry Powder Shot, it comes in for 5, and then +3, so 8, with no overpower, with just Call in the Big Guns. Not terrible. We do have Lace with Blood Rot and Lace with Frailty. I feel like these are two of the most, like, the best pumps in the format for Ranger. Inertia's pretty good, but it all depends. It might be a world in which Inertia takes over something like Frailty, just simply because you're going to deal with a lot of Guardians, but Blood Rot's good for aggro matches because they're not going to pitch into that. Frailty's good for aggro matches because their weapons then come in for 1 less, and also anything they put in their arsenal comes in for 1 less. So great pumps, and they just cost 0. They're good. Monkey Powder, I don't love this card, but what it does is you pitch 3, you play it, and then the next arrow attack this turn gets +1 and overpower, and then you draw a card. And so effectively what this does is you can Monkey Powder Shot to give +1 and overpower to your next card, pitch a blue, draw a card, load a Dry Powder Shot in because of Marlynn's ability, because it puts into your hand into the arsenal face up. So again, you can send Dry Powder Shot for 2 + 3 is 5 + 6 with overpower. And should you have any more blues in your hand, you can certainly pitch for this to give it another +4 to have it come in for 10 overpower. A lot of value, right? Because normally this would not give it overpower because it is not a Harpoon, but this will give it overpower. So this is a way to give your other arrows overpower, should they be any of these red ones that are a little bit easier for your opponent to block out. Searing Shot, also notably another great 0-cost arrow. It's effectively comes into 0 for 5. Huge value. Huge value if it hits. And also, you know, it's just got good stat lines. It's a very, very good arrow. I think it's one of the best arrows in the game. Take Aim. Awesome, right? This effectively does exactly that. It allows you to put a arrow into your arsenal. It comes in face down instead of face up. So again, you're going to want to make sure that it is something like these Bluefin Harpoons, or even like an Infecting Shot or a Searing Shot, but try not to do any of these Dry Powder Shot or Headshots, as you won't get the full value. Then, of course, Take Cover is the other one here. Rangers have one of the best D-reacts in Project Blue. Even though it's just a reload, what it does is it allows you to have no, you put this in Arsenal, your opponent attacks with whatever they have, and then you just block out 4, and you get to load that arrow in your hand into there, and then your turn can simply be pitch 2 blues, send arrow. There's a lot of value to having it, and I think that there's a world that this is, probably a card that's in every Ranger deck. But it's very, very good. I'd say you could probably take it out into Wizards, obviously. Then we take a look at the Harpoons, really like going over the Go Fish concept here. Pretty simple. Effectively, what this is if whether it's blue, yellow, or red, if any of them hit, their Go Fish ability is you look at your opponent reveals a card to you, and if that card is a red card for Red Fin, yellow card for Yellowfin, or a blue card for Bluefin, that card then gets discarded and you create a gold token. But if you have if you have used a cannon ability on any of these and it hits, then you get to look at your opponent's hand, find a card of that color, and discard it. So essentially what it is if you don't overpower it and it hits, your opponent can show you anything and it could not even be a blue card, right? Or a yellow card or anything. You get the knowledge of knowing what's in your opponent's hand for that one card, but you don't get to destroy it and you don't get a gold. So obviously you're going to want to overpower these cards. You're going to want to make sure that you are pitching to give overpower to these harpoons, as this is the way that you're also going to close out the game. You're providing a lot of disruption to your opponent, and you're just, you're just sending a ton of damage in a low health format into your opponent, which is really good. Then we have just the blue infecting shot. This is pretty much just in case you happen to have something that you can try and push more damage for. Blood Rot Pox is a great way to kind of close out the game, because it forces your opponent to have to keep a blue that they might want to use to send attacks at you. And instead, they're going to have to keep it to get rid of the Blood Rot Pox or die. Portside Exchange, great way to go about just filtering your hand. In most cases, you're not going to get the gold, but you do get to draw a card no matter what. So that's important. You're going to at least want to make sure to draw that card so that way you can load an arrow into your arsenal. Sift, also notably, another card that I've added in here, Blue Sift. It's a blue block 3, very good. It also allows you to put 2 cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck and then draw that many cards. So you get to draw 2 cards, and with those 2 card draws, you do then get to load with Marlynn's ability. And it allows you to filter a little bit better in your hand. If you have an arrow you want to load, but you have 3 reds, you can sift. Well, I guess theoretically you're gonna have like a blue sift, a harpoon you want to load in 2 reds. You can play sift, get those 2 reds to the bottom, draw 2 cards, hope they're blues, and if they're blues, you can then go about pitching to harpoon and then sending the hammerhead and then sending the harpoon for 8 overpower. Sinker is another good one here. I'm running Sinker because, again, it's the give an arrow overpower concept. So if you look at the top card of your deck and it happens to be something like a headshot, this will then give it overpower, right? You get to put it right into your arsenal. And if you do, it gets overpower this turn. So you can give headshot overpower. It'll come in face up, so it gets +2. And then you can go ahead and activate harpoon to give it +4. This will then come in for 10 overpower, which is, regardless of the fact that there's not an on-hit there, huge amount of value in just being able to send half your opponent's life in one attack. That is very difficult for them to block, notably. So a lot of cards in here that give overpower to things, and a lot of just like damage overall. I'm sure there are some clunker hands that we will get into, but that's pretty much it for the case there. We are then running, of course, some poppers here in case we're running into some pretty heavy illusionist matchups. Battalion Bark and also Battlefront Bastion. Not terrible things to follow up with, or even if you just happen to have a blue and a 3 and a Battlefront in hand, you can still just send that shit for 7. But Battalion Bark's a little bit different. You're probably going to want to do like a, pump and then send Bolt and Shot and then pitch to play Battalion Bark for 9 in case you're wanting to attack with them. But these are probably going to be popper bait mostly. Fatigue Shot's really good for those other Go Tall decks, so you can even do this for something like into Guardians. Most of Guardians' base attack is going to be like 6 and up. Brutes are also the same way too. So you can easily go ahead and just do this, and then if it hits them, they will then go ahead and have to send in something that's very, very measly in their value. A Macho Grande for 8, a blue Macho Grande normally comes in for 8 dominate, but if you happen to have Fatigue Shot and you hit them with a Fatigue Shot, that Macho Grande will only be able to come in for 4 instead of 8. Notably, this only has the base attack of the first attack action they play, so any additional pumps they put on their attack is completely different. That is a big thing there. This also really helps with Thump. Thump strictly says that if it's got more power than its base, it gets dominate, and then on hit they discard a card. Fatigue Shot says, hey, you're never going to get to above your base, so because of that, your value then gets less and less. So it's great into Guardians and ways to disrupt them without having to worry about additional like nonsense going on there. Oasis Respite, I think this card's just good into a deck that has a lot of blues. This is going to be great in case you're trying to block out a lot of these overpower and dominate effects from your opponents. But overall, it's an Oasis Respite. You probably don't want to be stuck with these. You want to try playing them as quickly as you can to block out value. get that 1 life and then get that 4 points of damage blocked out, and then kind of taking the upper hand there and doing something a bit different. This is where I almost think that Buccaneer's Bounty might be better, strictly because, or not Buccaneer's Bounty, Old Knocker may be better just because it's an instant speed. You tap your hero, gain a resource, destroy it. That way you can do something like Oasis Respite should you need to. But it is, I've not made a choice to do that yet. Currently, we're going to try out Buccaneer's Bounty and see what it's like. And then, of course, we have a Bullseye Bracer. This is in case you're going to be like resource loss, because Bullseye still puts something into there, but it blocks for 0, and it's got Arcane Barrier 1. So you're going to bring it into Wizards or any kind of Rune Blade. And then Null Rune Boots is mainly if you want that additional AB into Wizards. But Bullseye Bracers may just be the better move over Glidewell because this costs 1 resource to do the exact same thing, except it just does it doesn't block. Like Bullseye doesn't block. So we're going to try it in different ways and see what exactly happens, but I think this is kind of the overall start of the deck. I'm going to go ahead and get into a game of Project Blue, and we're going to see whether or not Marlynn has what it takes in this format. All right, so our first opponent here is Phi, but they're actually on more of a commoner build for their deck. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to send it and see what exactly happens here. Luckily, Commoner Phi and Project Blue Phi, not too different outside of a couple additional things, but Phi is choosing to go first. And with that being the case, we're just going to go ahead and see. So luckily, we're still, I mean, what, this is turn 1. So we should probably block here. I don't want to get a Soaring Strike on hit at all. Torrent of Tempo. It's also a really good 5 power. We'll just give them everything here and hope we don't draw a significantly worse hand. Well, we'll hope. We'll hope and see. All right, but they got 2 cards. I got 3. Or I got all 4 cards out of my deck, which are out of my hand, which is crazy. All right, so this hand kind of do, but not the worst. Because theoretically, we can then put Bluefin Harpoon in the Banish Zone. Or we could even pump it. So in this situation, we are going to want to call in the big guns. We're going to want to get our Dry Powder Shot in there. We can then lace with Frailty. So this will bump it up to 8. And I mean, they're not going to block. So I think it's probably better for us to save this and put something in there. That way, if we draw blues and pumps, we can just pump it and then send it. So let's do that. We're just going to shoot this here for 8. Of course, or 10. I'm sorry, 10. Because 2 plus 5 is 7 plus 3 is 10. So they're going to block that there. They're going to get a Frailty, which is really good for us because it means their weapon blocks for less. And then we get to go ahead and just put this into Arsenal here. Now, of course, again, we are playing a Project Blue deck into a Commoner deck. So I'm not sure, honestly, why our opponent is in the Open Blitz queue for Commoner. But they are, which is fine. So this comes in for 2. Theoretically, we could, because this hand, I need to keep 3. I guess I need to keep 4 if I wanted to overpower this in Bluefin. So I don't really care that this hits. It's really the on hits that I care about a lot more, although the mask effect is pretty crazy. I didn't even think about Vest either. Yeah, Vest is probably pretty good for you. And they're popping everything else there. So this is probably an entire turn trying to full combo me. I might give this and this here just because I want to keep the Buccaneers stuff. Soaring Strike for 2. This one I think we could probably block with... we'll block with a Drill Shot. That's fine. And I've seen a few blues in their deck so far But flying kick. Yeah. Flying kick for 6. Oh, they're okay. Never mind. They're sending a this, and then they're sending a flying kick. So we know flying kick is coming up. So theoretically, what we can do is we can block. We'll probably want to block 3 on the flying kick. We may even just block 2 here. Okay, they got a Phoenix Flame back. They're going to block 1. Now, there's a world in which I could give this. But we already know they're not going to get a big ton of value off of this. There's a 2 flow for that. We'll see if they pop Mask here. There's no reason for them to really do so, but because they have a card to put in Arsenal. So not terrible, not terrible. What we're going to do here is we are going to pop our chest piece, activate this, and then send a Bluefin Harpoon. So if they happen to have a, they're only going to be able to block with 1 card. So they're going to take at least 6, unless that card's a 3 block. But if they block with their only blue in hand, their hand gets like significantly worse. So they're blocking that there. We're going to get to look at their hand. Okay, we don't get to choose a blue card, but we get a Flex Clause, a Breaking Point. So this hand doesn't really do anything here. They can Flex Clause. So yeah. They can Flex Clause, and then we'll probably just want to block that, which isn't terrible. Wish we drew into a Take Cover. Just a Breaking Point for 5? This hand is interesting, though, because theoretically we can Sinker. If Sinker doesn't work, we can... If Sinker doesn't work... What do we get to do here? The real question is, do we just pitch Sinker to load Redfin Harpoon and then do the thing? I think it's actually probably better to do that. Because it gets +1. I think that makes more sense. I'm going to pitch Sinker. I just don't want to like risk it, especially since we're trying to give it overpower anyway. So we're going to load Redfin Harpoon. We're then going to pay into this. And then we're going to shoot this for 8 overpower. So again, or 9 overpower. So again, this, yeah, it's actually lethal, I guess. So unless they have the D-react. Yeah, that was nice. Good game. So that was our match into Phi as Marlynn. Now, of course, this is a bit of a different thing because, of course, Phi was on a more commoner style deck and also notably was playing a chess piece that is technically banned in the Project Blue format. But even still, we were able to go ahead and sneak it through and we were able to get the win. So I was very, very excited about that. Overall, I think the deck plays kind of fine. There's some situations in which I feel like you have to keep your whole hand. And if I ever got below a certain amount of life, I definitely was never going to be able to come back unless my opponent just like super bricked. But we did play 2 more games after this one here, which I can showcase if you guys want to see them. But effectively, I lost the next 2. And the reason I lost personally, I think the reason I lost is because of Vest of the First Fist. It being able to just like gain them the 2 resources, allow them to push a little bit more of that damage forward and really send a lot going on. So unfortunate for me that I lost the next 2, but at least for this one that you watched, you can kind of see the overall play style and pattern of Marlynn in Project Blue, kind of give you a little idea about what kind of decks you're looking to be pumping these arrows into. I think we got lucky with being able to get those Redfin Harpoons out. But really, I think like the harpoons kind of feel bad in the format, strictly because while it's like overpower is really nice, like coming in for, 10 plus overpower, whatever it is. Effectively, what we kind of want to do instead is play like more of these red, like when they hit the arsenal, send them for 5 or send them for 6, or find a way to give them overpower or some form of effective on hit, because I feel like you're still able to send 10, your opponent's just able to block it a little bit better. So maybe harpoons are not the case. Maybe the blue harpoons aren't the case, and you just want to play a bunch of these red cards that get effects when they're put face up in your arsenal. There's a lot of things to it, but overall, I think the deck performs kind of great, and I hope to continue to make these decks for you. I know next up on the list, we're going to look at Scurv. So let me know in the comments down below what y'all think about that. If there's anything in Scurv you'd like to see. And then, of course, feel free to go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed today's video on Project Blue. And you can even subscribe if you have not already. We are almost at 2,600 subscribers. So thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. And I hope to continue to provide Project Blue content and commoner content and this budget format content to all of you moving forward. So thank you all so much, and continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in our next video.